Kang Hyunmoo finds himself in hell. He doesn't even survive for 40 seconds or understand what's going on before he starts to choke. The crystal dust that covers everything here turns out to be poisonous and begins to poison and paralyze him. Hyunmoo can't move and clings to life with his last breath, but still dies there. The next moment, he wakes up in the same place, not understanding what happened. Noticing those damn crystals around him again, he runs as far as he can, but after 5 minutes he suffocates and dies the same way. He is revived again at the starting point and tries to run again, but a goblin quickly kills him with one blow. Over the next 13 attempts, Hyunmoo tries everything he can, but the result is always the same. Finally, on the 14th attempt, he just sits down, relaxes, and begins to breathe deeply. He continues to die again and again, but with each attempt, his lifetime increases. On his 28th attempt, he finally receives a notification from the system that the amount of poison in his blood has reached a critical point, and he has acquired the rare skill Poisoned Blood. With it, Hyunmoo is now immune to poison damage. This means that in this hell, he can gain new skills and level up his stats according to what he does. With immunity to poison, he finally takes a closer look at the moss crystals. He notices that they're much bigger and better than the ones he gathered at his lowly job. They probably worth millions each. Just a few days ago, he was an ordinary trash collector. He rummaged through the dirt of the dungeons in search of moss crystals, and for this dangerous work, he received mere pennies that were not enough for anything. But he had no other choice. Probably the only person who was ever good to him was his beautiful colleague Yu Min, but she was only a faint ray of light in his hopeless life. It all began nearly 30 years ago, when the world changed with the sudden appearance of dungeons, creating an era where only the awakened and gifted mattered. As a zero-star awakener, Hyunmoo was destined for a life of powerlessness, with no chance of awakening. But one day, an attorney named Robert Lee showed up and gave Hyunmoo a necklace left behind by his dad. At home, he turned on the TV while fidgeting with the necklace. Hyunmoo fixated on the man on the screen, Lee Ji-tae. He was wealthy, popular, and effortlessly handsome. His special powers set him apart from others. Hyunmoo couldn't help comparing. Ji-tae had everything, while all he had was a useless stone necklace. He thought that if life ever handed him a chance, he would seize it without hesitation and make it matter. In frustration, he grabbed the stone tightly, and it began to shine, rays of light bursting through his fingers. In a blink, the stone threw him into this hell world. Back in the present, Hyunmoo collects crystals and places them in his inventory, but as soon as he does, a new problem appears. A system alert announces that level 3 mosquitoes have appeared. He immediately breaks into a run, trying to escape the swarm. As he runs, he can feel his abilities increasing due to his title of being Hell's strongest. Hyunmoo feels a sharp sting as a mosquito the size of his palm sits on his hand. He screams in agony as more mosquitoes fly into his mouth. Suddenly there's an explosion, and he dies, having survived for 6 hours and 18 minutes. He wakes up to the ding of a level up. Turns out, he finished a quest, poisoned over 100 monsters at once, and his poisonous blood skill gets stronger. He slowly pieces it together. The mosquitoes had drunk his blood and died from the poison he has in his blood. Afterwards, he falls ill. The system informs his health will continue to drain as a result. Furious, he throws a fit, picking up a chair and smashing it to pieces. Just then, a glowing notification materializes. He has gained a new normal skill, dismantling. However, the illness keeps spreading, and his health drops to below 10%. But right at that moment, his title as the last survivor in hell activates, regenerating his health. One by one, abnormalities begin to heal, and the system confirms his recovery. He decides to test out the new skill. Grabbing another chair by its legs, he activates the dismantling skill. In just a moment, the chair disassembles into each of its parts. A thought hits him. If destroying something gave him a skill, then maybe making something would too. He picks up a long wooden pole, hammering a nail into it, trying to shape it into a weapon. The notification he had been waiting for pops up, indicating that he unlocked the crafting skill. Now that he has crafting, with new determination, he sets his mind on building a shelter. Sitting on the floor, a piece of crystal moss hovers in his hands. Hyunmoo knows he needs to make a shelter as quickly as possible to survive here. While he's busy exploring his newly activated inventory, a newspaper rustles beneath his foot. He picks it up as he tries to read it. The system responds that he has acquired another common skill, language. Scanning the text, a name catches his eye, Ji-tae Lee. Hyunmoo wonders if it's the same Ji-tae Lee from the Taesong Guild. This makes him think that this ruined place could be his actual world, just fallen apart. He turns to the piles of dead mosquitoes on the floor and uses the dismantle skill. A while later, his hard work finally pays off. New materials appear, mosquito wings, stingers, and mosquito blood. He collects them, activates the production skill, and receives a rare item, Hell Dart. Turning the dart over in his hands, he guesses it's something you throw once and use up. Out of curiosity, he gets ready to dismantle more mosquitoes and uses the crafting skill. An egg summons in his hand. As he inspects it, another notification appears, disclosing a 50% chance for the egg's survival. For now, Hyunmoo decides to keep it safe, slipping it into his pocket. Hyunmoo is then jolted by a sudden loud noise. He peers behind the shelter's wall to investigate. Standing across a window is a green-skinned eerie figure. It holds a heavy blade in one hand and wears a red cap. A pair of yellow eyes scan the inside of the shelter and lock onto Hyunmoo's frozen gaze. A goblin. It lunges forward, swaying its sword at him. He ducks down just in time, the blade crashing into the stone where Hyunmoo's head had just been. Flustered, he spots a staircase nearby. Panic fuels his legs as he breaks into a sprint, the goblin rushing after him. Hyunmoo remembers the weapon he made. Immediately, he pulls a wooden pole from his inventory and swings it at the goblin. The pole crashes against the goblin's side, knocking it off balance. The creature snarls as it pushes itself back up. Right then, notification flashes revealing the creature's identity. Redcap Goblin, level 20. The goblin lunges again, swinging its blade in a wide arc which Hyunmoo barely dodges. He strikes back with the wooden pole, but the goblin moves too quickly. With one precise slash, it snaps the pole in half. The goblin's eyes gleam with excitement and mutters something Hyunmoo couldn't understand. The creature's ability to speak stuns him. That second of distraction cost him. With frightening speed, the goblin slashes his chest. Barely able to stand, Hyunmoo pulls out a few hell darts from his inventory, clutching the wound that runs from his shoulder to his waist. He throws them straight at the goblin. The goblin slashes the dart in half within a flash, but one dart manages to hit its hand. Its hand starts to swell with blisters. Without a second thought, the creature severs its own hand. Hyunmoo connects the dots. Some of his blood must have gotten on the dart when he threw it, which must have caused poisoning to the goblin's hand. The goblin vanishes from sight. Suddenly, he hears a swoosh of air behind him. Looking up, he sees the goblin mid-air, sword aimed straight at him. Blood bursts from his body as the goblin's blade cuts through him and he falls to the ground. As the goblin begins to walk away, it mutters that it thought all humans were dead. Just then, as Hyunmoo makes out the goblin's words, a system ding rings in his ears. A notification flashes before his eyes, alerting him that his health has dropped below 10%. The regeneration perk he got from the Last Survivor title activates. The wound on his chest heals quickly and completely. Another message appears informing him about the completion of his quest by surviving the first night. He receives a silver box as a reward. The silver box upgrades to a gold box as a result of compensation for the level to difficulty contrast. An announcement surfaces, permitting him to use the Heartstone to return back, until the next quest starts in 14 days. Hyunmoo clutches the stone. It quickly begins to glow, bringing him back to his original world. The next time he opens his eyes, he hears the sound of rain hitting the ground. Jolting upright, he feels elated with happiness upon his return. His thoughts drift towards the necklace. Feeling angry at his father, he grabs it to throw it, but stops as memories of hell rush back. Yumin spots Hyunmoo outside the treatment plant and rushes over to him, scolding him for being too close to its entrance. Worried about mana poisoning, she wraps him in her raincoat. She pulls him inside, directing him to the bathroom and handing him a mana decontaminant. Hyunmoo attempts to decline, but she scolds him, emphasizing the toxicity of crystal moss for commoners. After stepping out of the shower, Hyunmoo casually asks for the date. Yumin replies that it's September 11th, and mentions he hasn't shown up for work in 2 days. Despite it only being 2 days, to Hyunmoo, it feels like 3 years since he was in hell. His thoughts swirl as he recalls being at home before being pulled to hell, only to return to the same place in the actual world. Seeing as his old clothes are contaminated, she leaves to get him clean ones. Suddenly a screen opens up displaying the items in his inventory. It shows some nailed poles that he had made as a weapon, crystal moss that he managed to collect, and a golden box he got as a reward. His SSS level luck increases the quality of the contents of the box as he taps it. A number of tarot cards arise from it. Some cards burn into ashes, and only one remain titled Battle Helper, granting him a legendary skill. There were only 7 people in the world to have any legendary skills. Now he's the 8th, though he doesn't have a clue what this skill does. Yumin returns with fresh clothes for him. As he is getting dressed, she notices his good health even after being contaminated. She inquires whether he's an awakened since only they are immune to mana poisoning, to which Hyunmoo admits that he recently acquired powers. Recognizing her expertise on the crystal, he shows her a kilogram of the rare crystal moss he collected to determine its worth. Her jaw drops open in disbelief upon inspecting the piece. Taken aback by the crystal's 5-star quality, she asks him where it came from. Yumin is a collector in the mines for the sole purpose of gathering crystal moss for her research. Hyunmoo establishes if she wants to study the crystal, she needs to help him find a way to sell it. She explains that the large size would make them tough to sell. Hearing this, he snaps the piece in half. Outraged by his careless behavior towards such a valuable item, she lashes out at him. Hyunmoo admits that he has even bigger pieces of crystal moss to calm her down. He lays out the 2 conditions he wants her to agree on. His identity is the one to collect it, and the origin of this crystal to be kept a secret. These conditions set her off again as he can't comprehend the quality of the high-purity crystal, which can only be obtained from the first ever dungeon that was opened. He tells her the next steps depend on how well the items sell. As he grabs his bag of contaminated clothes, she asks him to stay the night. The next morning, she leaves to meet a buyer. A week later, worried about the safety of the crystal moss, Hyunmoo joins her to meet the buyer, who also promises to purchase the remaining moss. The buyer, Park Hwiso, introduces himself and offers a firm handshake. Hyunmoo feels the strength in his grip, realizing that if the man were to attack, defending would be difficult. The system activates Hyunmoo's Hell's Strongest title as his fight instinct kicks in. Park Hwiso inspects the crystal and agrees to the trade. Before leaving, he bows to Hyunmoo, leaving him to wonder the sketchy man has figured out his secret. After the man leaves, Yumin teases Hyunmoo for being paranoid, and then shows him a notification confirming the payment. Then it is revealed that the buyer collects crystal moss for Ji Tae Lee, the renowned hunter from the Taeseong clan. As they examine a blood-stained crystal, They discuss how the hunter, who must have gathered such a pure crystal from a 5-star dungeon, won't be able to remain in hiding for much longer. Lee Jite wonders if the hunter might be from a foreign clan. He orders Park Huiso to investigate the sources of the crystals, Yu Min and her partner, Hyunmoo. After days of constant training, his strength cap increases. While he could easily do over 1,000 pull-ups in the real world, even a few in hell quickly drain his energy. Exhausted on the ground, he wonders how long he's been here. A message shows up showing time of 18 hours before the next quest. Hyunmoo has now gotten hold of how things work around here. Time passes in the real world as well as he spends his days in hell. The only thing that frustrates him is not understanding why he wakes up in a different location each time. A readout reveals that the legendary Battle Helper skill predicts and records his movements, enhancing his accuracy. It feels like an illegal cheat in a game, but he knows he won't survive hell without it. He activates the skill and tests it on a punching bag. As he throws punches, he feels his accuracy gradually improving, allowing him to focus on a single spot. Ecstatic, he realizes the skill is reinforcing the information it's learned about his movements. At that moment, a new quest begins. A beginner's friend, with the objective of eliminating all 5 scarecrows. Bewildered, he wonders if a beginner's quest is meant as an insult, considering he's already at level 7. Hyunmoo roams around in hell searching for the scarecrows. Then he spots some creepy skeleton-like figures frozen in place like mannequins. A hovering notification projects the beginner scarecrow's level as unknown. An unsettling image of them coming to life and crawling like spiders flashes through his mind. Conjuring a hell dart from his inventory, he throws it at a scarecrow, but the mannequins remain completely still. He strikes one with full force, yet it doesn't budge. Suddenly, the eerie creatures come to life, their eyes glowing red with lasers. A message flashes, disclosing their level to be 7, matching Hyunmoo's own. As they begin advancing, he feels relieved to find their speed slower than that of goblins. On Earth, a rank of 7 signifies 5 or more years of experience, but here in Hell, it's considered a beginner's rank. Channeling his legendary skill, he prepares to obliterate them all. Surrounded by the horde, sweat beads on his forehead as he quickly formulates a strategy to take them all on at once. Without warning, a scarecrow charges at him. He retaliates with a firm punch, but another jumps at him, locking him in a chokehold. As the scarecrow's grip loosens, Hyunmoo lands a harsh blow to the side of its face. Cracks form and its skin begins to peel off in pieces. Just then, a system update signals the start of the second level. 2 scarecrows restrain his arms, while the other 2 pin his legs. The 5th charges at him, puncturing his ribs. Hyunmoo howls in pain as the system notifies him of increased physical strength, hemorrhage resistance, and pain tolerance. Despite the boosts, his health bar drops below the critical point. Resurrected by the Last Survivor perk, he summons a weapon made of brittle timber, now amplified with attack power. He strikes with his weapon, breaking off a scarecrow's limb, but it quickly regenerates. The system updates again, and the scarecrows are equipped with heavy steel weapons. In a flash, they kill Hyunmoo after his 5 days of survival. His attempts to fight are in vain as he's defeated every time. Frustrated, he ties 4 scarecrows to a pillar with rope to take them on one by one. Using his legendary Battle Helper, he zeroes in on each creature's core to break it. Unable to break the core, his combat level increases to 3. Soon after, he meets his end in brutal ways. His neck is snapped, a kick to the face, a somersault through the air, tossed like a football, and finally, his neck is twisted and broken with a punch. Regaining his motivation, he pounces at the enemy, throwing a punch that it dodges. He follows with a kick that cracks its face. The system updates, and sparring level 4 begins. In the blink of an eye, 2 fingers jab forward at lightning speed, poking his eyes. He crashes into the wall, clutching his eyes. The creature shrieks and bites into his leg like a rabid dog, and just like that, he dies again. It takes Hyunmoo 9 rounds to figure out 3 game-changing facts. First, the battle stops at level 4, meaning no new fight variations. Second, since the movement patterns are fixed, they pause to recalibrate if there's an unexpected change. Lastly, if they take significant damage, their movement halts. After several successful brawls, he finally completes the quest. Crying out in happiness, he looks back at the fallen scarecrows in satisfaction. Despite being at the same level as his opponents, his hands tremble. Fighting them felt like facing someone at the rank of a coach, not a beginner. He soon receives a reward boosted by his SSS level luck, the Cradle of Heaven. A golden cloth materializes in his hands, and a glowing screen displays its properties, boosting growth and restoring damage. Hoping it grants him power, he wraps it around his head, but nothing happens. The item proves useless, as he resurrects with full health every time. For a while he considers selling it, thinking a legendary item must hold great value in the real world. Then, he spots the egg he obtained from dismantling the mosquito remains. Covering it with a cloth, he waits in silence. After a few moments, the egg bursts open. As he wonders what kind of monster might emerge from the egg, all of a sudden, a blinding surge of light bursts forth, revealing a small, delicate creature curled in a fetal position. The tiny being blinks open its red eyes and lets out a sleepy stretch. Aiming a finger at her, he comments on her tiny size. The fairy, hungry, grabs his finger and sinks her teeth into it. He yanks his finger back, sending her tumbling to the ground. The starving fairy sits up, and Hyunmoo offers her a candy, but she refuses. When he asks what she wants to eat, she points at him. Her wings flutter as she settles on his arm, drinking his blood. He nudges her to stop, but the fairy insists she's trying to stop his bleeding and begins licking where she had sank her straw. The fairy teases him, calling him her slave. He squeezes her to make her behave and demands her identity. She's confused at first, but then remembers she's meant to appear at the world's end to devour all living things. Hyunmoo wonders if he should just kill her. Hyunmoo dismisses her declaration as a joke given her tiny size, but as he scrutinizes her, he's shocked to find she's immune to his poisonous blood, and her lack of hostility prevents him from activating his battle helper skill. Unable to fight or gauge her skill level, Hyunmoo decides to tame her as a pet. He names her Renian, a choice the savage little fairy approves of, as it resembles the harbinger of doom in fairy language. Knowing the fairy will follow him everywhere, Hyunmoo sets one condition: she must never eat a human, especially not him. However, he agrees to let her drink his blood. Renian looks at the scattered bodies and asks if they're human. Hyunmoo grins in satisfaction, but then sees a torn scarecrow and panics, unsure if he caused it. An alert pops up, adding the Valiant Energy trait to his battle helper skill. Hyunmoo activates the skill and tests the newfound trait on a scarecrow, shattering its body into pieces. Out of nowhere, the enemies come back into life, classifying Hyunmoo as a superhuman and deactivating the lock. Baffled by his new status, he clenches his fists looking for any trouble. Instead, the scarecrow in front of him points to a wall where broken furniture is piled up. As they move closer, the fairy alerts him to a rich fragrance arising from that direction. There they discover a skeleton seated in an office chair, its head down, hand resting on a letter. The fairy quickly begins biting a bone from its hand and Hyunmoo tells her off. He reads the letter, dated 3 years after the world hit nightmare level. Children born since then died from toxic air, and even awakened talents couldn't survive, pushing humanity to the brink of extinction. It becomes apparent to him that this world is the future version of his own. At the end, the letter mentions that the writer and others considered suicide, with some going through with it. As Hyunmoo wonders who wrote the letter, Renian finds a hearthstone under the bones. He compares it to the one he owns and notices they look different. The moment Hyunmoo grabs the stone, it starts glowing intensely and leaves an unusual imprint on his hand. A pop-up alerts him he is being watched by the stars. Renian flaps away sensing trouble, and Hyunmoo is cast into yet another universe. Hyunmoo floats in a space that seems infinitely stretched, and calls out to Renian. Right then it is disclosed the leading star, Barul, has recognized the shards of star absorbed by him. But he disappoints Barul, who leaves him, giving up the shards, which infuriates him, and Bro shows him the finger. He demands from the system to know more about the stars, as he has been oblivious to them. The system unlocks the information that each star belongs to supreme beings ruling their territories somewhere in the universe. They lend their mighty powers to their kin through star shards, so they can rise and expand when they come into power. The mechanism detects his curiosity, and reveals he carries a star shard, and they want him with them. Now the reason becomes clear to Hyunmoo. The stone Renian found looked different because it was a fragment, not a hearthstone. A symbol shines before Hyunmoo as stars of different colors spiral around him, each offering something unique. A dazzling charm, an army of steel, help to hunt the snake that destroyed the previous world, a world to rule from behind a screen, and the title of Lord of Death. A notification prompts Hyunmoo to choose a star to follow. Confused by the flood of information, he asks for clarification. The system responds with more details about each star. The Shattering Star, Gaul, is a mastermind who rules in the shadows, using secret societies, daggers, and poison to manipulate. The Weeping Star, Verde, the father of all sorrow, commands an army of the dead, thriving on despair and the ruins of shattered hopes. The Starving Star, Yogalim, is a greedy serpent whose people are always hungry, desiring to devour the world. Whispering Star, Monstrel, an instigator shining brightly in the light and a dazzler in dark, deceive any powerful being to kneel before her. Conquering Star, Ardon, is a loser desiring to rule a world in ashes by burning it in hatred and resentment while advancing with fire, slaughtering enemies with iron. Hyunmoo finds their personalities repulsive, and the system points out that the stars are only interested in beings like their own selves. Offended, he lashes out, unable to see what fault of his led to such a degrading comparison. He resolves it within himself that he's better than them. He questions if choosing a star would change anything. A stream of visuals rush past his eyes like a fast-paced film reel demonstrating the power of these stars. A prompt appears once again, urging him to make his choice. Recalling the struggles he endured in hell, he asks if siding with the star has a cost. The system replies that he only needs to follow and serve the star, as they nurture their kin to act on their will. Unsure about this whole ordeal, Hyunmoo asks if he has to choose right now. The answer comes after a moment's silence, calling it a rare opportunity. The more they test him through trials, the faster will he grow. Hyunmoo questions whether there's an immediate reward or not. The stars respond at once, clearly insulted. Seeing that they approached him first, he questions their motives and demands more time to think. In response, the conquering star, Ardon, loses interest and turns away, while the others grant him the time he asks for. The galaxy fades and Hyunmoo returns to hell. The Whispering Star, Monstrel, circles around him, its sharp edge pricking his hand. He's notified that the star activated part of his power, granting him the legendary skill, Domination. He sees it as a bribe and wonders why such powerful beings couldn't stop the difficulty from escalating in hell. Hyunmoo speculates that there must have been more talented people than him, and if even they couldn't prevent this, perhaps the stars are the creators of hell. He decides to proceed with caution and observe the stars more closely. After 3 days in hell, Hyunmoo returns to the real world, stronger, but never sure where he'll land. More often than not, he arrives disheveled and ragged, forced to sneak through the shadows to avoid attention. One day, still in that worn state, Hyunmoo visits Yumin and declares he wants to buy a house. She sees his conviction, but reminds him it's impossible. He's sitting on illicit cash. A lavish estate in the hands of a zero-star commoner like him would raise suspicion. The next day, he weighs his options to tap into his wealth more freely by registering an ability user and raise his rank. His mind drifts to the star that followed him here, wondering why settle for just one when he could take them all. His greed sets him to acquire as much power as possible by any means necessary. The world's fate and humanity's survival means nothing to him. He just wants the world in his grip. Hyunmoo and Yumin eat quietly across the table, eyes on the TV as the news covers Lee Ji-tae's announcement. The Taesung clan will attempt to clear Baekdu dungeon for the first time since the North Korea was abandoned, after they had a crisis where all the monsters escaped the 5-star Baekdu dungeon. Such a crisis is known as flood phenomenon, where if a dungeon is left alone, monsters will pour out of it. Baekdu dungeon, a 5-star dungeon with equally strong monsters. Only mana-infused weapons can kill them. Most clans avoid it, but Lee Ji-tae's team is the first to try a raid. While changing channels, Hyunmoo stops at a news report. The biggest talent test of the year opens registration in 3 days, which is said to be the biggest one this year. The Taesung clan will use it to recruit for next year's Baekdu dungeon raid, to restore peace and safety in Korea. The next day, in the crowded line for test registration, someone behind Hyunmoo yells at him to move. He turns and glares. Startled, the man asks if it's his first ever evaluation, which makes him recall his first time as a kid at the orphanage. He looks around. The lines are chaotic, overcrowded with both new applicants and ranked hunters. Taesung's open recruitment has drawn everyone. He asks the man if he's registering too. The man shakes his head. He's just here to update his rank, hoping to raise his value. Hyunmoo thinks in this world, a person's worth is measured by their level, driving a relentless obsession with ranking up. Lost in thought, Hyunmoo doesn't notice the line moving until the man behind him gives him a push. Still, his mind lingers on the possibilities a higher rank could bring. When Hyunmoo's turn finally comes, he's told there will be 3 checks. The first is an identity check, just a formality. The second is a stats check, completed after a blood test. The third is a skills check, which evaluates combat ability. Most people score a base skill rating of 100, but it doesn't mean much. High stats don't always make a good hunter. For the final test, Hyunmoo is told to insert his arm into the machine and grip the marble at the end as tightly as possible. The instant his fingers close around it, a loud crack rings out, leaving everyone wide-eyed in stunned silence. Right after the crack, the numbers on the machine start going haywire. The workers are flabbergasted, and 2 possible reasons come to mind. Either his rank is too high, or the machine is too old. Since it worked fine for Lee Ji-tae earlier, the second seems more likely. Hyunmoo feels embarrassed for breaking it, but the staff calmly call it a common malfunction and recalibrate it. He tries again, holding back his strength, but the machine breaks once more. This time, they blame it on a system error and ask him to try again. But he asks them to let it, and he's handed a paper. His skill review is now pending. Afterwards, the crowd is then split into 3 lines: attackers, defenders, and those with buff or unclear abilities. With his results pending, Hyunmoo joins the 3rd group for further evaluation. The receptionist asks if he wants to take the hunter ability test, noting he passed the base test. She says, this year's test will be unlike previous ones, as it is in partnership with the Taesung clan. She warns that while becoming a hunter sounds exciting, most don't earn much, and it's a dangerous path that could even potentially result in death. Only the top hunters make a good income, while the others may need to consider alternative paths. But Hyunmoo isn't here for money, fame, or fortune. He feels a strong sense of duty toward humanity. Unknowingly, dungeons could soon become too difficult for humans to handle. She hands him a registration kit and hints that the test will involve a dungeon. Hyunmoo wonders what kind it'll be. Meanwhile, Lee Ji-tae arrives at the research bureau. Crowds gather as he walks in, flanked by men in suits. His team briefs him. The Red Butterfly group has joined the test, a group many clans want to recruit, but which has declined the offers, aiming to use their skills for the northern expedition. The moment the Taesung clan mentioned the north, they applied for the test. Ji-tae says he would have accepted them without testing. As for the other participants, most are under level 20, no match for Red Butterfly. Then his staff mention our guy, a unique case, awakened with highly and unusually toxic blood. Ji-tae finds it impressive but risky. Just a drop of Hyunmoo's blood could endanger teammates. They decide to watch him for now. Hyunmoo waits in the hall outside the test room with other participants for the hunter's test. A man emerges, calls his name, and hands him a small square tile before walking away. Hyunmoo calls after him to ask about it, but the man doesn't even glance back. Soon the test room opens. Everyone is led into the 3rd gym of Yongsan Talent Bureau, transformed into a dungeon simulation. Lee Ji-tae addresses them. The test dungeon is based on a 2-star Ukrainian dungeon model. Their task is simple: gather as many tiles as possible in 3 hours to pass the dungeon-themed test. The hunter candidates enter, and the test begins, leaving them to experience the dungeon for the next 3 hours. Inside the dungeon-themed gym, monsters aren't the only targets. Every participant starts with 1 tile. Monsters carry between 1 and 3. The person with the most tiles by the end will be rewarded. A group of contestants forms a team, balancing defense and healing skills, and invites Hyunmoo to join. But he sees himself as a one-man army, hence refuses. He wants to be the only one rewarded, knowing only the person with the most tiles will win. The team, concerned about being short 1 member while other teams have 5, try to convince him. Hyunmoo shrugs them off, but one member, furious, grabs his jacket and demands his tile, thinking he's just another weak contestant. Our guy responds with a brutal punch, causing the guy to collapse as his tile flies loose. Hyunwoo snatches it mid-air, then turns to the rest of the team, daring them to try the same. Instead, the one who had initially invited him surrendered, dropping his tile and backing off, which amused Hyunwoo. The guy explained that no rule stated you'd be disqualified for losing a tile. Plus, the dude our main character broke was their tank. Our champ thinks the man is smart to surrender, so resolves to let them go if they hand over their tiles. Meanwhile, in the observation room above the dungeon, Lee Ji-tae watches through a glass panel that shows the entire map of dungeon. Beside him stands his associate, monitoring the test. The leader of Red Butterfly Group stands out. She's already taken all the tiles of the people she went in with. Ji-tae notes that if her 2-star teammates regroup, they could likely handle a 3-star dungeon with ease. Surviving is key, but Taisheng is also looking for people strong enough to fight the monsters of this dungeon. One of those is the Mushroom Droid, newly developed by the Do industry. It's an android built from the mushroom monster's skin from Chernobyl Dungeon, durable, equipped with mana-repelling combat gloves, and cheap to repair thanks to regeneration due to the materials used. But it has flaws. Its attack power is weak, especially against multiple people. While groups can beat it, solo hunters like Red Butterfly herself will struggle to learn its patterns. Moreover, its tile is embedded deep inside, making it hard to retrieve. Ji-tae suddenly notices something odd on the map. A red dot marked with Hyunwoo's initials shows he already holds 8 tiles. Back in the dungeon, Hyunwoo finally faces the android, but his expectations shatter the moment he sees it. He was expecting real monsters, but the creature in front moves like a mannequin, eerily similar to the scarecrows for beginners he fought in Hell. Taking advantage of its slow speed and weak stats, Hyunwoo pummels it with his fists, keeping it pinned. He grabs its leg, spins, and slams it into the ground. Standing amid the pile of wrecked androids, he lets out a scream, bored out of his mind. He uses his dismantling skill to extract the tile from the remains. It felt too easy. Just as he thinks that, a broadcast echoes through the dungeon. Only 34 minutes have passed, and just 30% of the tiles have changed hands. Then comes the ranking. Third place, Hongryun, a muscular woman with 7 tiles. Second, Red Butterfly with 9 tiles. First, Hyunwoo, holding 16 tiles. After the announcement, Hyunwoo tosses a droid's head in his hands, thinking goblins would have been a better challenge than these scarecrow-like androids. He checks his loot, a common-rated Spore Eroder's flesh. He figures the scarecrows in Hell were tough because of leather like this. Curious to craft something, he places the leather on his arm. It wraps around naturally. Using his crafting skill, he creates Spore Eroder's knee and arm guards, also common grade. Encouraged, he gets ready to craft more. Meanwhile, Red Butterfly, sitting in second place, eyes the leaderboard with determination to surpass our hero. A swarm of opponents spots her and charges. She takes position and activates her skill, radiating blinding light. She dashes through the crowd, throwing punches, landing kicks, flipping midair, until she stands on shattered ground, surrounded by the defeated. The spectacle draws an even larger group aiming to take her hour. Surrounded, she calmly strikes a karate pose, daring them to step forward. Her teammate Hongryun rushes in, shouting her nickname, Uni, trying to stop her. Red Butterfly insists she needs more tiles, but her teammate reminds her they already have enough for the northern expedition. 88 tiles, confirmed by Red Snake, the nerdy guy who surrendered to Hyunwoo earlier. Still unsatisfied, Red Butterfly glances at Hongryun one last time and dashes off with a thunderous burst, leaving her team worried. In the observation room, Lee Ji-tae notes Hyunwoo's performance and asks for more information on him. His guy reports that this is the guy's first evaluation, but his skill review is still pending. Ji-tae connects the dots. He's the one with the poisonous blood whose report he saw earlier. Hyunwoo's movements show he knows his way around dungeons, projecting him as a sneaky explorer who gets in dungeons without permission. The suited man confirms Hyunwoo has no criminal record or cancelled licenses. Lee Ji-tae suspects he might be a foreigner, as some places have weaker rules. Curious, Ji-tae eagerly awaits Hyunwoo's clash with Red Butterfly. In the dungeon, starving and unaware of his surroundings, Hyunwoo bites into the flesh of Spore Eroder, which came from the mushroom droid, only to gag and vomit from the foul taste. Suddenly he senses something approaching. A woman with a long red ponytail, surrounded by fluttering red butterflies, appears. Red Butterfly brushes past him and stops abruptly in front of him, almost humbling him over. She asks if he's alone, to which he humorously replies that 150 sidekicks are waiting for his command. Reading the truth, she smirks and drops into a fighting stance. Hyunwoo's system rings with alerts. She's level 14, double his level 7. She throws a punch, and he instinctively crosses arms to block. Her strength overwhelms him. A red arc cuts through the air as she kicks toward his face. He dodges, but barely. One solid hit could end him, and if not for his battle helper skill, he'd be out cold by now. His skill activates during battle, letting Hyunwoo dodge her attacks. She throws another kick and he ducks, still unable to strike. Afraid of losing, he activates his Valiant Energy buff, a move he's been saving that could be risky for humans. His hand starts glowing with blue energy as he raises his fist. As their fists collide, red and blue energies erupt like rival spells. Their eyes meet, and with a sickening crack, her arm breaks. She stifles a scream as Hyunwoo demands her metal tiles. She drops them on the ground, asking if what broke her arm was a skill. Before he can answer, a huge woman rushes in, screaming her teammate's nickname and punches Hyunwoo, sending him flying. Dazed on the ground, he spots 2 figures. Red Snake, the man from earlier, and the muscular woman helping Red Butterfly up. Red Snake introduces the bulky woman as Hongrion. Her expression shifts to fury when she sees Red Butterfly's broken arm, who tries to calm her, saying her team is too weak to defeat him. Hyunmoo proudly admits he's the one who did it. Just then, the broadcast announces, the test has ended after 3 hours, and rankings will be revealed soon. Hyunmoo worries that the distraction cost him first place. Third place goes to someone named Hyuntaek with 21 tiles. Second is Kang Hyunmoo with 69 tiles. First is Red Butterfly with 88 tiles. Both Hyunmoo and Red Butterfly are confused by the announcement, while Hongrion smiles triumphantly. Poor guy realizes Hongrion must have taken his tiles when she punched him and given them to her sister. Frustrated, he facepalms, but Red Butterfly tries to explain it's a misunderstanding. Hongrion cuts her off, demanding an apology for her sister's broken arm. Even though her words anger him, he stays calm and thinks carefully before acting. First, he gets why she's shocked about the broken arm. Second, she should have heard the whole story before blaming him, even if the fight was fair. Third, what really bugs him is that after taking his first place, they're still making him the bad guy. Deciding to teach them a lesson, he uses his legendary skill, Domination, given by the Whispering Star. The mood darkens as eerie monsters appear behind him. Hongrion turns pale, collapses in fear, and sees her leader with a red ponytail in a monstrous form. A small girl named Haru rushes in and heals Hongrion, followed by medics. Realizing he went too far, Hyunmoo flees. Lee Jitae watches Hyunmoo's precise moves, impressed by a level 7 taking down someone twice his level, thinking he could even surpass their hunters. He decides to meet our champ before Red Butterfly. Outside the test area, Hyunmoo reflects on wasting too much mana using domination. Lee Jitae's man Tai Min-soo approaches, hands him a card, congratulating him on passing the test. He assures him that Taesung clan can help him reach his full potential. Hyunmoo asks if that includes even reaching the stars. In the car, Lee Jitae replays the dungeon battle between Hyunmoo and Red Butterfly. Tae Min-soo reports to Lee Jitae that Hyunmoo refused the offer, as expected. He asks if Jitae knows anything about the stars Hyunmoo mentioned, but Jitae seems to be just as puzzled. On the other hand, Red Butterfly's group accepted the offer, aligning with their goal of the northern expedition. After a brief exchange, both part their ways. Jitae remains intent on monitoring Hyunmoo, whose true motives still elude him. Meanwhile, after the test, as Yumin drives Hyunmoo home, he shows her the card Tae Min-soo gave him, though she is more curious about the box in his lap. Red Butterfly's prize, given to him as an apology for Hongrion's outburst. Inside are rare heavy grip gloves that boost defense and strength. Yumin mentions that the recent batch of crystal moss was sold to Park Hwiso once again, who's been hoarding it, from whoever they sell it to. Hyunmoo grows suspicious, thinking no one would need so much ruby unless they're working for someone. He considers cutting out the middleman and dealing directly with Park Hwiso's employer. She then asks if the box only had the gloves. Remembering the prize money, Hyunmoo flips the box and a 50 million won check falls out. Later, parked in front of their apartment, they chat about the generous reward and the hunter lifestyle. Suddenly, Hyunmoo smells blood and stops Yumin from entering the building, telling her to stay in the car. He sneaks to the back of the house and finds 2 men unconscious and a shadowed figure standing silently, Park Hwiso. He explains the situation. His crystal moss has caught international attention, even from high-ranking hunters. The men on the ground were members of Japanese Yakuza after his supply. Hwiso says if he hadn't acted, Yumin could have been hurt. He proposes a partnership with the Taesung clan, the very group Hyunmoo just turned down. Though suspicious the clan may be behind all this, he listens as Hwiso admits to investigating him, only to find nothing, almost like everything about him has been erased. His techniques in the test and rare moss he brings in don't fit a sewage cleaner. When Hyunmoo refuses again, Hwiso's expression hardens as he decides to get rough. Our hero's Hell's Strongest title enables increasing the effect of his abilities. Suddenly, Hwiso attacks with his wand, but Hyunmoo dodges and distracts the man long enough to snatch the rare gloves from his pocket. Using self-defense as an excuse, he slips them on and punches the man in the face, surprising the man who notices the first-place reward from the test in his possession. Park Hwiso drops his disguise, tossing his coat aside with a murderous glare in his eyes. Things take a sharp turn as Hyunmoo, too full of pride, ignores every word the man says. Hwiso calmly pulls off the cover of the cane he carries, revealing a sleek, razor-thin sword underneath. Hyunmoo's battle helper skill activates just as Hwiso swings the sword at him. He dodges, but the man charges again. This back and forth continues until Hyunmoo leaps like a frog, landing behind him. Our guy doesn't see it coming, but when the old man makes a move, the sword narrowly misses his face. Hyunmoo seizes the opportunity, grabbing Hwiso by the collar and activating his domination skill. Thinking his spell worked, Hyunmoo moves to throw him, but his movement halts when he hears the man speak. It's too late. He's slashed across the wrist and drops to his knees. The old man admits to not slitting his throat since he had no intention of killing our guy and instead questions who he works for. Our strange lad starts laughing hysterically, reminding Hwiso of being forgetful of his poison blood. Seeing his guard drop, Hyunmoo takes advantage, slamming his blood-smeared palm into Hwiso's mouth. Despite the old man's experience, it's clear he lacks poison resistance. Still, he retaliates with a sharp elbow strike and a kick to the gut, sending our main character crashing into a wall. Hwiso quickly pulls out a bottle of medicine and sprays it on his face, while Hyunmoo, aided by his regeneration skill, heals his wrist. The old man is taken aback by his healing capabilities and asks if he is hiding a skill. Hyunmu's health had dropped below 10% and thus activated his last survivor title, allowing him to regenerate. The man realizes that violence alone won't defeat Hyunmu. Frustrated, Huiso shifts his approach, bringing up the offer again, asking Hyunmu about the source of the crystal moss. When Hyunmu refuses to answer, the man tries to coax him into joining the Taesung clan, but our guy tells Huiso to work for him instead, since he never plans to work under anyone. Park Huiso, uninterested in Hyunmu's offer or words, turns to leave. However, our bro is now impressed by the man's skills, decides he can't let him go. Hyunmu tries to stop him, questioning why Park Huiso is so invested in a clan with no real strength. He points out that the clan is smaller than the third-ranked Almighty Lotus clan, with members weaker than the second-ranked Great Unknown. He insults the clan and its leader by calling them media stars, which stops Huiso in his tracks. He responds, calling Hyunmu either ignorant of reality or blinded by ambition, thinking he could surpass Lee Ji-tae. Hyunmu mocks Huiso about losing to him, but before he can react, the man quickly draws his blade and swings at him, grazing his cheek and cutting some hair. Then he highlights the power of the clan members, with Lee Ji-tae at the top as the strongest. Huiso warned that if his intention had been to kill a level 10 rookie, our main guy wouldn't still be standing. With pride, Hyunmu declares his intention to outshine Lee Ji-tae. He then asks what makes Lee Ji-tae so special. The man reveals that Lee Ji-tae reached level 20 in under 6 months, that too with the support of the clan, something the man thinks that Hyunmu can only dream of achieving in years, and this is just the bare minimum he can do. Stung by the insult, Hyunmu vows to surpass Lee Ji-tae in 2 weeks, offering Park Huiso a deal. If he succeeds, the old man must work for him. However, the man dismisses it as a joke and walks off. Determined, Hyunmu returns to hell using goblins as punching bags to level up. He forces his fist into one's mouth, its sharp teeth piercing his flesh as his toxic blood is forced down its throat. His system announces he's reached level 15, followed by another notification. The conquering star Ardon has set his eyes on him. Trying to raise his middle finger in defiance, Hyunmu realizes he can't. His hand is torn apart by the goblin's teeth. As he wraps his hand in bandages, thinking he shouldn't be pushing his body too hard, Renian suddenly appears, noticing the wound. She flies over and pokes it with her straw, drinking his blood. Hyunmu lets it happen since he can come back to life if he dies from blood loss, which makes him wonder if he could also be revived in the real world like in hell. Looking at the pile of goblins, Hyunmu feels impressed by his own progress, though he still can't find the black-handed goblin he met at the very start. At that moment he hears footsteps approaching. It's the same goblin he was just talking about. He jumps to his feet and Renian disappears as suddenly as she appeared, leaving Hyunmu alone with a goblin trembling with fury at the sight of its dead people. Our guy in action crafts a claw out of hell darts using the bandage on his hand while teasing the goblin with words. The goblin charges at Hyunmu, sticking its tongue out. The goblin strikes and Hyunmu is unable to last even a second before dying, having survived for 12 days. He wakes up on the ground, a panel notifying him of a new quest with the objective to defeat the black-handed goblin. Getting back on his feet, he plans a trap with thumbtacks coated with his toxic blood in a deep ditch to catch the goblin. He notices it too late that the goblin is approaching, and dies once again from a fatal blow after surviving exactly 1 minute. On his 6th attempt, Hyunmu tries to escape, but the goblin chases him without any breaks. Exhausted from running, he spins and tries to counterattack with a punch, hoping to catch it off guard. To his surprise, the goblin retaliates with a brutal strike from its blade. He briefly considers hiding after resurrection to level up in safety, but his ego refuses to take the easy way out. He's determined to defeat the goblin, unwilling to back down without putting up a fight as the goblin kills him once again. Days pass, and the level 20 Recap goblin sees no sight of him but can't relax knowing our guy can't just die. Turns out the goblin has a name, Curson. Not only that, but it also has people to protect. Suddenly a frantic goblin rushes up to him, shouting that someone poisoned their drinking water and now they're all dying. Curson rushes to the hideout, where goblins lie scattered and sick. The smaller goblin informs him that the poison also killed the animals they were raising. Curson's expression darkens with anger as he realizes the human is behind this cruelty. He regrets not locking up the man earlier, feeling that this could have been avoided if he had. Soon another goblin arrives carrying Curson's crying baby. Overcome with emotion, Curson begins to walk away, determined to find the human responsible. His people try to stop him, insisting it's pointless to fight someone who can keep reviving. They urge him to let go of his vengeful quest and run away together in search of a new place. Suddenly the goblin starts hearing whispers from the stars, and instructs his people to leave and find a new shelter. However, their gazes fall upon a scout surrounded by poisoned blood. The horde quickly realizes that the human has been leaving traces to lead them into a trap and attack when they least expect it. The leader tells his people to hide while he tracks down the human. He reassures them that he can kill Hyunmu even blindfolded, as his movements are burned into his memory. Still, his people caution him to be careful, reminding him that unlike the human, he can't revive. With his people gone, Curson is left alone, and he senses the human's presence nearby. He vows to deliver a painful death. Hyunmu, now armed with his heavy grip gloves, prepares for what is coming next. Our hero offers Curson a chance to die at his hands, which confuses the goblin, thinking it's a distraction. Hyunmu clarifies that if he truly wanted to poison the goblins, they would already be dead, not sick. He warns the goblin that although only a few his people died this time, he's capable of striking again, and challenges the creature to stop him if he can. The enemy sways his sword at our guy, which he grips as the goblin says he could just capture and dismember Hyunmu, but it's pointless since this human can simply kill himself and revive. Hyunmu offers a deal. his life in exchange for his family's safety, saying he only wants to extract revenge by killing Kurson. Kurson drops his sword, asking if all the man wants is his life. If so, he must keep his promise and leave after killing him. Hyunmoo tries to pick up the sword to kill the goblin, but that second of distraction is enough. The monster knocks him back with a hard kick. He doesn't buy a word Hyunmoo says. He loathes him. Kurson jumps atop him and attempts to strike him by his sword, but Hyunmoo defends it with the help of his gloves. The goblin hits him with his sword one more time, vowing to deliver him a painful death. Hyunmoo's health drops below 10%, but his regeneration skill kicks in, healing him almost instantly. The goblin's mistake was not killing him right away. The champ retaliates, punching Kurson in the gut, sending him stumbling to his knees. Grabbing the goblin by the neck, he delivers another hit, sending Kurson flying, and he collides with a wall. Our guy isn't even using his full strength, giving the opponent a chance to recover. As Kurson struggles to rise, another punch slams into his gut. The poor goblin is certain he dealt serious damage, yet Hyunmoo seems untouched. Hyunmoo treats the goblin as a punchbag who thinks the human might be hiding a skill considering his strength. Sensing Kurson's confusion, Hyunmoo reveals he never got stronger. He just fooled him into thinking he was easy to kill by a single blow. Since Kurson thought he could kill him whenever he wanted, he became careless, failing to notice Hyunmoo's Last Survivor in Hell regeneration perk. Even after this revelation, the goblin refuses to give up easily. He prepares to fight again, but Hyunmoo lands a hard blow to his neck, sending him crashing to the ground face first. Kurson, struggling to speak, tries to say something, so Hyunmoo decides to let him speak. The miserable creature begins pleading for his life, begging Hyunmoo to spare him. He reveals that his people being unblessed are not allowed to live here. They too will perish if he dies. Smirking at the thought of gaining all their experience, Hyunmoo pulls out a hell dart and stabs him without hesitation. After the battle, Hyunmoo scans the city for any goblin traces but finds none. Moments later, he's rewarded for completing the quest, Enemies on a Wooden Bridge, by defeating the level 21 Redcap goblin. He receives a silver reward box, which is upgraded to gold due to the difficulty gap. After gaining 3 levels, Hyunmoo's Hearthstone activates, surprising him as he wonders if revenge grants him more experience. A notification appears, 21 days until the next quest. Another follows, stating he's being watched by the shattering star, Gaul. He focuses back on the dead goblin and begins inspecting it to find out what made Kurson so strong. Renian suddenly appears hoping to eat the goblin, so he tells her that she can eat the goblin once he's done with his analysis. Holding Kurson's sword, Hyunmoo examines it and realizes Goblin's strength wasn't just from the weapon. His power must stem from something else. His eyes are drawn to Kurson's black hand, still clutching the sword. The dark, strange markings etched onto the hand catch his attention. A notification informs Hyunmoo that his hand is being guided by Gaul, the star that had been watching him earlier. As Hyunmoo touches the goblin's palm, the writings on the goblin's hand surge up like smoke, piercing his own hand like needles. A pattern forms on his palm, and the system notifies him that he's absorbed a fragment of the shattering star, Gaul, unlocking the legendary skill, Family. The scene shifts to Yumin, who is asleep in her bed and stirs as she hears her name and blinks awake, surprised to see Hyunmoo after 2 days. Frustrated, she turns to leave, but Hyunmoo grabs her hand to stop her. Hyunmoo considers telling the truth behind his disappearance, but before he can speak, Yumin brings up Park Hwisu's unexpected visit, who came at her doorstep inquiring about him, which raised her suspicions. She feels left in the dark and angrily demands to know where Hyunmoo disappears to for days, insisting he take responsibility for dragging her into his mess. He shakes her gently to calm her down, promising to explain everything. His mind races. He wonders why he's kept her in the dark. She's been by his side, always helping and putting him first. Realizing how deeply she's involved, fear grips him. If anything happened to her, he knows he'd lose his mind if left alone in this miserable world. Moved by his emotions, Hyunmoo spills all of his secrets, the Hearthstone, the mysterious place known as Hell, and his frequent disappearances. Yumin listens with worry in her eyes, but Hyunmoo reassures her, promising that no matter how long he's gone in Hell, he will always come back to her. Her heart softens as he calls her his lighthouse, his reason for coming back. She leans on his chest and says she doesn't like being just the lighthouse, instead wants to save him when he is in trouble. Hyunmoo says he needs to take a shower, but she lays her head on his leg and suggests taking a shower together. Next day, Hyunmoo wonders how to contact Park Hwisu after the promised day had passed. Luckily, the opportunity presents itself. Hwisu shows up and offers him a ride. Apologizing for breaking the promise, he insists he's reached level 20. However, Hwisu doubts it. He was ranked 7 just 2 weeks ago, and there's no way to verify his claim. Besides, the old man never verbally agreed to the deal, so it wasn't official anyways. For his hard work, the old man offers a 15% increase on the crystal moss price and assures him that he won't force him into joining the clan. But Hyunmoo isn't satisfied. He demands the price be doubled as compensation. The old man glares at him in disappointment, but Hyunmoo smirks, unfazed by his intimidation. Summoning a piece of rare crystal moss in his hands, he looks at Park Hwisu and asks if he knows what a monopoly is. Hyunmoo tells Park Hwisu that only he can bring these exclusive crystals, giving him a monopoly over their trade. He threatens to change his mind if Park refuses to work by his terms. The man insists he's already paying a premium, 5-star dungeon rates plus a 15% bonus. Hyunmoo plays his final card by flicking something at Park, who catches it. He opens his hand to reveal a legendary ring, Trust of Urhast, which temporarily doubles the senses of the wearer. Hyunmoo teases him, boasting that Lee Jitae has never given him such gifts, implying that he would prove to be more useful than his boss. He lets Park keep the ring until he admits our hero is better than Lee Ji-tae. Park Hwiso examines it and deduces the gloves given as reward by Lee Ji-tae is nothing compared to this ring. The shape of it seems like it's the part of a pear. When he asks about the other ring, Hyunmoo lies, claiming he's never seen it. Pleased, the old man agrees to double the price and offers to handle the tax issue discreetly. This is what our guy admires. The old man goes to extra mile to satisfy his clients. Still, Hyunmoo slyly keeps the truth. The second ring is in his pocket. Obedience of Ukelheart lets him track and weaken the one holding the other ring by 50%. When asked if he wants anything else, Hyunmoo motions towards the car and asks its name. Later, he calls Yumin outside her institute. Annoyed by the disturbance at first, she's stunned to see him with a sleek black car. He says he borrowed it from Park Hwiso and plans to start driving lessons. When Yumin finds out Hyunmoo drove there himself, she scolds him like a toddler since he doesn't have a license. What was meant to be a sweet date ends with her angrily taking the wheel and driving him around instead. Afterward, Hyunmoo practices with Hwiso, who suggests that joining the clan could solve all his problems, offering luxury, convenience, and everything else a hunter could ever wish for. The old man hits Hyunmoo's arm harshly, mentioning that Taesung clan has the best benefits in the world, and it would be his loss to ignore the offer. Frustrated, he refuses to join again and tries to land a punch, but the man dodges and strikes him in the gut, possibly cracking a few ribs. The damage is not enough to trigger his regeneration, which Hwiso is keenly interested to witness. Feeling smug, Hyunmoo thinks his endurance without using skills may have impressed him, but Park Hwiso simply says he needs more time to assess him, then launches into another round of training. Park continues to train Hyunmoo, and mentions the Great Unknown Clan, which Hyunmoo refuses to join due to its shady reputation and mysterious leader. The man then asks about the third-ranked National Association of Ability Users, NAA. Hyunmoo says he's considering that option since they're known for their kindness, even to outsiders, though it can be a bit excessive for some. Thinking he had him distracted, Bro takes action, but Hwiso swiftly dodges, tucking Hyunmoo's arm underneath his, and breaks it, dropping his health critically. Our guy's regenerative perk kicks in, and the old man gets exactly what he wanted as his hand heals by moving itself back into place. Hwiso is impressed by Hyunmoo's growth over just 2 weeks and excited to see his potential. After training, the man asks the reason for being called here. Hyunmoo says it was just to return the borrowed car. He then asks if Hwiso has ever heard of stars, which the man mistakes for the awakened class system. It is then revealed that our hero is a level 20 of the first class. He tries to clarify by listing star names he knows. Park Hwiso admits he's only heard of them from top hunters like Lee Ji-tae. He adds that China's top hunter, Xiao Oji, once mentioned a group called the 5-Star Association that created a dungeon. Also, the Reverse Cross Crusade, a group for half-ability users, uses the Star of Bethlehem as their symbol. Hyunmoo is left puzzled and asks the man to gather more information. Unexpectedly, Park Hwiso asks if Hyunmoo wants to clear out a dungeon. Puzzled by this, he questions him why he is asking this so suddenly. Park Hwiso advises Hyunmoo to build connections if he won't join a clan but still wants to rank up. The best way is to gain recognition by socializing and clearing dungeons to rise to Lee Ji-tae's level. Since the dungeon he's been training in isn't recorded, no one sees him as a seasoned hunter. This upcoming raid is his chance to get noticed and learn the basics. Hwiso tells him to wait for a call once preparations are done. Hyunmoo arrives at Cheonggae Mountain, a permanent 1-star dungeon, where new hunters can test their abilities and ordinary people hike or vacation. An overseer from the Great Unknown gathers the hunters and lines them up. Introducing herself as No Howl, she welcomes everyone. Her breath reeks of alcohol the moment she speaks, prompting her to explain that overseers are assigned to prevent rookie conflicts. Each team has a mid-ranked overseer from every different clan for this purpose. Howl starts briefing the rookies on basic dungeon knowledge, beginning with the well-known fact that dungeon difficulty increases with star ratings. She explains that there are 2 types of dungeons: mobile dungeons, which are more challenging due to their constantly shifting structures, and permanent dungeons, which have fixed layouts and are generally easier to clear. Since the rookies have never entered a dungeon, so they don't know what to expect from a dungeon, therefore they're assigned an overseer. The drunken woman suddenly vomits and sheepishly apologizes, saying she was out late the night before, and asks everyone to introduce themselves. The 5-member team introduces themselves: Park Seo-moon, 2-star, Han Na-gyung, Kim Seo-young, Kim Soo-won, and Kang Hyunmoo, all 1-star. The woman tries to recall where she's seen Hyunmoo, listing a few institutions, but fails. Giving up, she inquires about his weapon, and he pulls out a wooden rod from his inventory. She asks if that's really the weapon he brought, and Hyunmoo explains it's no ordinary stick. It's a goblin's bat that makes monsters drop all their loot on contact. Park Seo-moon snaps, dumping out his weapons to prove that even a 2-star like him needs proper gear. Before he can continue, the overseer knocks him down and shoves his weapon inches from his face, scolding him for breaking the rules by showing it off in public and risking civilian panic. After he apologizes, she helps him up and leads the group toward the dungeon. Hyunmoo, quietly observing, concludes though she's not on Park Hwiso's level, but is still strong for a mid-ranker, and decides to test her abilities. Meanwhile, the goblin Hyunmoo killed in hell emerges from the ground behind him. The team enters and the dungeon gates close behind them with a heavy thud, and the team exchanges uneasy glances. Inside, the overseer warns that while it looks calm now, it will turn into a jungle once they go deeper and goblins begin to spawn. She asks if anyone knows how to clear it, Park Seo-moon answers that their first objective is to recover the return crystal. She confirms, adding that the crystal is located in the goblin cave where they spawn. Hyunmoo compares the return crystal to his hearthstone mentally. The overseer explains that rewards will increase with more completed objectives, but for now, they must focus on obtaining the return crystal. She tells them to begin exploring the dungeon while she observes from behind without intervening. Park Seo-moon takes the lead, warning the team to watch their head for sneak attacks and gather grass to mask their scent, claiming goblins are sensitive to smell. When Hyunmoo disagrees, Park Seo-moon points out that he got this advice from a famous streamer who cleared dungeons live, sparking an argument. The overseer steps in, requesting Hyunmoo's cooperation. The overseer asks why he's arguing, and Hyunmoo explains that goblins are sensitive to smell so can easily distinguish between fresh and old grass, thus masking their scent won't help. He also points out that goblins are short, so they should watch their ankles, not their heads. No Howl, the overseer, reveals that the streamer Park Seo-moon learned from used to clear 1-star dungeons 10 years ago, but now clears 3-star dungeons, and the things change with time. She's suspicious of Hyunmoo's in-depth knowledge, but he brushes it off, claiming it's his first dungeon experience, and he prepared by doing research. While they argue, a goblin sneaks up, but Hyunmoo kicks it away. He taunts his teammate for mocking his weapon, which he hasn't even used yet. The argument is dropped as the team focuses on the dungeon. The 3 1-star hunters fight together. Han Na-gyung slices a goblin with her whip, Kim Seo-young stabs another with her dagger, and Kim Soo-won slashes a goblin with his sword. Park Seo-moon, however, takes out multiple goblins alone in an instant. Impressed by their performance, the overseer grants them a short break. She notes that the goblins seem to be scared of something, and she plans to investigate after the team leaves. Suddenly, a scream cuts through the air, and the overseer rushes to the team. There, she finds a goblin tied to a tree, covered in black fluid, with its body horribly mutilated. She orders the team to find the return crystal quickly, as the situation is too dangerous for a 1-star dungeon. At that moment, they realize Hyunmoo is missing. They search everywhere but find no trace of him. Instead, their voices attract the attention of the far more dangerous being, the Red Cap Goblin. An hour earlier, bored of the amateur goblins, Hyunmoo had sneaked away. Once alone, he activates the family skill gained after defeating the red-capped goblin that lets him designate a target as family, bringing them back to life even outside of hell, as long as their body is not too deformed. With this power, Bro revives Kurson, who emerges from the ground. He tasks the goblin with eliminating all other goblins in the dungeon. Hesitant to kill his own kind, Kurson is warned by Hyunmoo that his tribe will be destroyed if he refuses. As Kurson angrily walks toward a goblin, Hyunmoo begins to feel strange. It's the connection from his family skill that allows him to sense Kurson's disgust and hatred towards his own kind, viewing such weak goblins as an abomination to his species. Driven by these emotions, Kurson vows to eliminate all goblins. Seeing him occupied with the goblins, Hyunmoo decides to check up on the team. Meanwhile, the team is on the verge of giving up after failing to find Hyunmoo. Just as they're about to lose hope, he suddenly appears from a bush. The overseer snaps at him for acting on his own, but the dude calmly explains he just needed to take a leak. Noticing their frustration, he asks what's wrong, and the woman explains they plan to leave once they secure the return stone. At that moment, Park Seo-moon spots the return stone and rushes towards it. Terrified and desperate to escape, the guy ignores the overseer's warnings, only for Kurson to appear and hook his leg. In a flash, Na-hul rushes in, drawing her twin blades as the others watch in shock. Amused, Hyunmoo observes the scene, wondering how a middle-class hunter from one of the 3 great clans, the Great Unknown, will fare against a goblin from hell. As Kurson clashes with Na-hul, Hyunmoo watches quietly from afar, observing her fight. Although the family skill grants him control over the goblin, there's a catch. If the target's level is higher than the user's, control is limited. Still, Bro isn't worried. Kurson must obey if he wants his tribe to live. Watching him tear through his own kind, Hyunmoo doesn't see hatred, just the pain of a puppet forced to betray his people. Hyunmoo feels relieved that the other hunters aren't intervening, allowing him to focus on the fight. He's curious if a mid-rank member of the Great Unknown clan can defeat a level 26 goblin. Kurson fakes an attack on the rookies as a distraction, drawing Na-hul away in a panic. But just as she closes in, he flips through the air and leaves a sharp cut across her cheek, landing behind her. Caught off guard by his precision and the quality of his gear, she wonders what something so powerful is doing inside a 1-star dungeon. Hesitating briefly but having no other option, she activates her skill Accelerate and vanishes momentarily. Hyunmoo signals Kurson to retreat, but in a blink, Na-hul reappears behind him. As the goblin turns, she carves an X across his chest. Her skill Accelerate boosts her movements to double their pace for a short time, but if maintained for a longer duration, it becomes risky to those around her. Thus, not wanting to waste a second, she leaps and drives her blade straight into his skull. Kurson moves so fast that no one sees it coming. Suddenly, smoke fills the area, catching Na-hul off guard. As it clears, the goblin is already on top of Seo-moon, sword pressed to his throat. The goblin speaks, warning her to stay back or he'll kill Seo-moon. Na-hul freezes. She's never seen a goblin talk before, let alone take a hostage. Na-hul is caught between stopping a dangerous goblin that poses a long-term threat or saving Park Seo-moon. In the end, she chooses to neutralize the greater threat while asking for Seo-moon's forgiveness. Watching her abandon their teammate, Hyunmoo is disappointed. Without thinking, he hurls a stone at the goblin using his stick. Kurson reacts instantly, tossing his hostage aside and dodging the attack. The enhanced power from Hyunmu's stick creates a massive hole in the tree which thrills him. Na-hul scolds Hyunmu for trying to draw attention to himself, instructing him to stay behind. Of course the dude refuses, stepping forward in defiance. Hyunmu's defiance only fuels Na-hul's anger, but it leaves him more disappointed. He hadn't expected a mid-rank hunter from a well-known clan to be so weak against a level 21 goblin. It makes him question whether her other clanmates are equally unprepared. Had she faced Kursen in hell, Na-hul wouldn't have lasted a second. The realization hits Hyunmu. Kursen had intended to kill his hostage if she had decided to charge at him. If the creatures isn't fully under his control, someone could end up dead. To calm her down, our man explains that he's not criticizing, just trying to help, since if Seamoon had died, it would have caused her serious trouble. However, letting the goblin roam free would create even bigger issues, but still, he stresses, sacrificing the poor guy isn't the answer. Hyunmu pushes for a solution, proposing that he fight to resolve the situation and get better results from the dungeon. He launches a pebble from his stick at the goblin again, this time hitting it squarely. Na-hul dashes forward, determined to fix her earlier mistake by finishing off Kursen. Hyunmu rushes in front of her, his stick clashing with Kursen's sword, but he overpowers, forcing the goblin back. He signals to warn him about Na-hul closing in from behind. Her blades slice through Kursen's skin as he falls to the ground, his feet kicking her in the process. Hyunmu spins Kursen with his stick, sending him crashing to the ground, mentally conveying him the message that this is better than getting stabbed in the back. Na-hul strikes again, but Kursen dodges and hits back, their weapons clashing together. During the scuffle, Kursen steps on a bush, and just as Na-hul's attacks him, and just as her blade is about to land, Seamoon leaps in between them, taking the hit by Kursen and knocking both of them to the ground. Bro signals the goblin to escape, and he throws another smoke bomb. The overseer rushes forward, but by the time she reaches him, the creature has vanished. Hyunmu breathes a sigh of relief. Despite the chaos of his first dungeon expedition, it was managed well enough, leaving him excited for a high score. As the smoke clears, Na-hul notices a blood trail left by Kursen and decides to follow it, asking Hyunmu to escort everyone else out safely. However, she soon loses the trail and returns to headquarters for an investigation. There, she learns that the dungeon's rank hasn't changed, and no other teams have reported anything unusual. The man behind the desk refuses to believe her, saying that even the dungeon is still a permanent type. Sitting on a bench to collect her thoughts, Na-hul is startled by Hyunmu's sudden approach. He asks if she found the goblin, and she admits she did, but in an unrecognizable state. She theorizes that the other goblins may have seen the goblin's injuries as a chance to attack him. She took the red cap as evidence and plans to examine it further. She thanks him for his help, but he dismisses it, asking if his skills are enough for a 2-star dungeon. Na-hul is surprised, pointing out that the goblin they fought seemed to be at least from a 3-star dungeon. She asks if he's had any prior dungeon experience, to which he denies. Then, she wonders if he was in a low-ranked dungeon due to restrictions, and he confirms it. Na-hul thinks to herself that someone as skilled as him must have entered with an overseer, likely aiming to join a clan. Seeing potential in him, she offers him her card, explaining that joining a clan would grant him access to higher-ranked dungeons with support of clan members. Hyunmu asks for time to think but shuts her down when she tries to pressure him. He insists he's fine on his own, citing their failure to handle the dungeon and his dislike of dividing loot. She tries to argue, but he walks off, hoping for a positive report from her. At the research center, Chief Du Wang-young is deep in her work when a knock at the door goes unanswered. Moments later, an employee bursts in, mentioning an odd rank evaluation submitted by Na-hul. Annoyed that she's being disturbed over something so minor, she snaps, but he quickly assures her it's worth her time and hands over the report. Stunned, she asks if it's a system glitch, but the man assures her it's been double-checked. A 5- or 6-star case would have been amusing. This one leaves her at a complete loss of words. Another staffer rushes in with another strange report from the Gangnam Ability Center. Just like the last one, it's about Kang Hyunmu. He was tested 3 times, and each result came back off the charts. A third employee rushes in, saying the Great Unknown offered $1 million for Hyunmu's info before the official announcement of results. The chief scoffs, telling them to ignore it. An S-rank hunter with 7-8-star potential is worth far more. She orders everyone to keep the report under wraps and delay its release until they locate Hyunmu. She needs answers. Meanwhile, Hyunmu lies on the bathroom floor, preparing to run another test with Yumin's help. Ability users are ranked by a star-based system, separate from their levels. Each rank has a level cap they can't exceed. 50 levels for a 4-star, 40 for 3-star, and decreased by 10 levels for each star below. While regular people can awaken from